Hey everybody, it's Funny once again. Hope you're doing well. Today we're rambling about the Audio Damage BoomTschak. It is an analog drum voice and it sounds like this. Okay, so what is it? It is a beast in size, but is it a beast in sound? Oh, I know. That should be the YouTube thumbnail. I'm just kidding. So what is it? Basically, it's any drum synthesis you can want. When I think like drum synthesizers, like usually noise isn't something I would have in my kick module when I think kick modules anyway, but it's on here. You don't have to use it. You can use it, but you definitely need some pitch bend, which is on here, and you can use it. It's got an analog VCO underneath it, but what it does have that I really appreciate is a wave shaper. So you can get some awesome synthesis tones out of it that way. I'm going to start off by sending it 4 on the floor. There is a manual trigger, but just for keeping my hands free, we're going to send it that sequence. 4 on the floor, super slow. We start off with the pitch, and it gets out of audio territory. That's okay. We've got our triangle or sine. If you want kicks, use the sine. If you want, I don't know, something more perky, with a C, not a K, but also with a K probably, you probably want to go into the triangle wave. However, because you get all these controls here, you can do whatever you want with it. And what I do really like to do with this one right off the rip is to use a sine wave and use the wave shaper. And you just get this, like, you get that. And it sounds really good. Now, you can pitch it down a little further too because of that. And the classic drum synthesis tools, I'd say definitely for kicks. And again, all of these things aren't exclusive. You can follow them or not follow them. You can do whatever you want in the world of synthesizers, and especially modular, but there's bend depth when I think kicks. How deep do you want to change your pitch? Well, if I send it all the way negative, it's going to basically put it out of audio territory if we want, but if we send it all the way positive, it's going to bend it all the way up. And when you do these things, it also allows you to start either higher or lower than you kind of think of the VCO. I'm going to talk a little bit about drum synthesis here, even if it's not necessarily intentional, just because it's an opportunity to do so, especially in a module like this. They just give you all the tools, and I really appreciate that. You can make whatever drum voice you want out of here. It's not limited to be a kick or a snare or whatever, but it can be. And it can be something in between. And over modulation, you can change it. Use it as a whole drum set by changing it like a parameter lock would if you wanted to. I don't know if we're going to get into that or not, but we'll just have to see. So on that note, let's try and pitch it up really high. And then bend it really low. And then you get a decay of that bend, so you can make it really short, where it's not really bending at all, or make it really long. And it's just chaos on here, like when it comes to the amount of choices, because if you enjoy crafting your drums, you could never explore every single sound, but I appreciate that anyway. The shape, you can also make it more, there's like totally linear on the right, or if you want it to fade out really slowly. You can make it into the logarithmic ramp-esque shape. I shouldn't say ramp because you think like ramp oscillator, but if you can see on there, it's that sort of exponential slope. I like that one. There's also the amp decay immediately below it, so how long do you want the whole thing to ring out? You can take your bends to be longer than the amp decay, right? So they'll decay in a way that doesn't ring out. Or the opposite, if we just have this boom out, which I really like, you can have your bend. So you can start really high-pitched or really low-pitched. Have your transient kind of ring out in a lower end, right? And this isn't unique to the BoomTschak or however it's pronounced. This is just like basic drum synthesis stuff. But now we have that click is pretty loud we're hearing right now, and this is probably partly because of my wave shaping, but there's also a click circuit, so where basically the envelope starts, it does a little bit of a popping that when you think of like a drum head, you hit the batter on the head, there is a sound that collision actually makes, but then there's like the body of the physical drum itself. This isn't physical modeling, but just like when you think drum synthesis, I think about things like that. If you turn the click all the way down, you can make it into like super bassy. It'll never go away, but you can make it super trebly. It will definitely make it more noticeable. This is pretty pronounced, so I'll turn it all the way down. It's probably too much bend even for me. And you just gotta, play around with it and see what you like, because yeah, when you bring the decays out longer, you can make the bend itself deeper, right? Because it's not as dramatic, even if it's the same amount of motion, if that makes sense. Like if your pitch bend is like, right? If you made that same distance in a short amount of time, it's going to sound like a zap, right? Like, pew. Hope that made any level of sense. Right? Like that. That's like perky laser zapping, which sounds awesome, but also, if you do the same amount of depth on a slower decay, then it's like a kick, right? Do, do, do. Right? But the wave shape run here is really tasteful, and I really appreciate that because it keeps me in line, but I also am like wanting to just drive it a little more, so you got to use a distortion elsewhere, I think, or switch over to the triangle. And you get a little bit of that plasticiness that I've mentioned a couple times now that I really like. Let's turn it up a little bit. And it sounds really good as a kick. Turn that pitch up a little bit. Bend depth down a little bit. Get some kicks going. But if that's not enough, I think some of that click is also probably coming from the noise mix. So if we mix in our noise section, there's a filter on here, so it's filtered noise, obviously, as you're hearing way too loud. You have high pass, band pass, low pass, and you can get modulation. I believe this follows the envelope, but just like the SSF Entity percussion synthesizer, the old one, it can follow a bunch of different modulation sources. It can either be its own amp, which is controlled down here. It can be an oscillator bend, like it can follow this same bend depth and decay that are switch over to the high pass here. And that's way too loud. Let's mix it down. And it's funny that it's the same issue I have. It's not a big problem, but it's the same thing I find on the Entity. You gotta just like blend in that noise like as little as possible because it gets so much louder than the oscillator. But yeah, you can choose your mod depth. If I set that mod depth to the oscillator band, no, to the noise amp. You can do Q, filter, let's go to band pass, and you can sort of sculpt that sound a little bit. Amp shape. And again, pitch noise, the noise isn't changing, the filter that we're listening to is changing, so that's going. If we just crank that up real loud, a high pass. And there's no ring mod on here, I don't think, but you can drive other oscillators into it, so bring your own if you'd like. If I want to bring something crazy like the voice of the interstellar radio, I can come over here, we'll take the output of that and run it into the filter input. That sounds crazy. And I really like the amount of noise manipulation they've given you, right? But again, I still sort of feel like you gotta really just barely put it in. Oh, maybe this level, is this level control for the noise? No, it's for the whole module. Okay. Try and pitch that down a little bit, which I can actually pitch that down on the interstellar radio, so you are hearing actual changes in pitch and timbre. Yeah, that's fun. What if we swap out some cables here? I think we'll pitch down the whole module a little bit. Let's do some filter input on that one. Now what if we send some modulation? We're going to go in with our triangle wave to a bunch of different things just for fun. Let's check them out. Filter, modulate with an LFO. Yeah. What if we do amp decay of your noise? Now you can, if you do your mix here, get some sort of like again, under heavy modulation, this can be your entire drum set, right? Pitch mod? I think you want to use random wave. What if we use the output of the QVL? But this is like, I know it sounds super goofy, but this is what I love about modular drums, you know? Let's go back into, I don't know, the sine wave of the LFO. Let's go bend CV, so this will change the amount of bend instead of bending it itself, I believe. Yeah. At least that's what I think I'm hearing. Let's switch back to that sine wave. Let's modulate our amp decay. Yeah. That's fun. Pitch it up. Maybe not that much. Yeah. And then let's bring this up here. Doing some bass lines, I think. It's certainly great for that. Now I always say the better the drum sounds, this isn't exclusive, some are good at both, but often the better the drum sounds, the harder it is to make into a bass synth, but let's try that today. So in comes the pitch. Generate a bass line. Very physical modeling in a way. Like, I like how it sounds. Let's get some decay down as well. Pitch down. Again, triangle's probably more harmonics to make a bass line out of. Pitch it up a little bit. Try and use bandpass to just make our noise a little bit lower so it doesn't stand out quite as much. Only noise. Yeah, no pitch on that side. Let's go to this one. Can you okay, let's volt per octave the frequency and listen to the noise just for fun. I'm curious. I mean, there's hi-hats in there too, right? This is what I'm saying. Like, they give you all the tools to design drum voices with, and you can make whatever you want, right? Hi-hats. Take out that. Bring in our oscillator. There's also, so I tend to be, I don't know, let's take out our pitch. We'll go back to drum territory. And then maybe we'll just go back down to 4 on the floor, demonstrate this. They do give you control over velocity and chokes, so you can. Sorry, mix that in a little bit again. Bring that sine in. I do wish that wave shaper just was like a little nastier. Just because I hear that it can, but it's just like, just go all the way. Yeah, but you trade that in for versatility, right? Because this is so versatile, right? So now let's try velocity. And I believe this will, so we got sine wave in there. Let's switch over to triangle just so it's a little more poignant on the modulation front. This isn't synced, but if we try ramp wave. Yeah. Again, I sort of feel like the route in modular drums is to modulate your decays and other pieces rather than trying to find a macro for velocity. And maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree thinking that way, but that is where I'm thinking right now. If we go into the choke circuit, though, you can mute your kicks, right? Over CV. So if I go into another track, I can, I'm not entirely sure where I'd use that. Maybe if I made it super dense, can we glitch it out? Oh yeah. Yeah, okay. I immediately put my foot in my mouth. Here comes the noise. Here comes the onboard noise. And again, there's no pink versus white noise switch. It's just, where do you put the filter on the pink noise? Do you put it completely open? Because you can. Your snare territory. Here is snare territory. Yeah, that's you know what? Just when I was saying I don't see the point of the choke. Kick's going up. Yeah. Okay. I'm convinced. Yeah. I don't think they're making this thing anymore. Either is kind of a shame, but there's probably... So I know they're a plugin developer, like for DAWs. I don't know if they make this in the DAW, but I hope they do, because it's pretty sweet. I guess it's analog. I don't know if how good the recreation is, but hey, it's freaking awesome. I love a drum. So hey, I'm Tafony. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that crap that YouTube's always on my case about not promoting to you, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.